The jobs for me took 2 or 3 times longer because I had to figure out how to do the job, which meant I did it more than once. Well, this is why a lot of people don't buy art, because people put these prices on it that just don't make any sense.
It's not the first time you mentioned that. After art school, right, your determination and the excitement of the new jobs you were provided and the projects you were provided, that many times you felt underpaid. How do you evaluate yourself properly to determine that you are underpaid or you are not?
There weren't a lot of mold makers for me to measure against, so there was not a lot of templates. A mechanic charges a certain amount from garage to garage. There's sort of a standard baseline. I didn't know any fabrication studios doing that type of work. I didn't know how to connect with them. Look, we had phone books. It's not like I could have gotten on the internet. And what I should have decided was that I was going to charge a certain amount per hours plus material at the very least, and then a certain amount above that. The thing is, I hadn't done any jobs like those, so I didn't know how many hours they would be. And I didn't have anybody else in the shop. I was the shop. I didn't have any reference points. And every job that I did was different than the job before, either in scale or by technical issues. And so the jobs for me took 2 or 3 times longer because I had to figure out how to do the job, which meant I did it more than once. Because I took the jobs based on the idea that I would figure it out, not that I already knew how to do it. That was exciting to me. It was like chess, but it was exhausting too. Set a rate, I guess, is how I would do it. Even today, I should have charged by solution, really.
I believe for almost every artist that is the question, what's your art pieces worth?
Art pieces are really tough, so I think that what is important is to establish at least a baseline. And that baseline is that it costs you a certain amount to make that art. So let's get that off the table right there. And it's not just about hours, because you can make a beautiful, amazing painting in 5 hours or a beautiful, amazing painting in 100 hours. So it's not just by hours, but let's just say you have to factor in the cost of your life, which is your overhead, your studio, your materials, any expenses you have in marketing. And then I think at the very least you should choose a professional rate to say, it's like, look, I have these other rents. I need to make $30 an hour. As now, let me look in the marketplace and see how much better I think my work is than someone else's. Meaning, is it a better quality? Is it maybe larger in scale? Is it very unique? Something like that. And then experiment, charge a premium. But this is where it gets pretty tricky, because the art world is slippery. You can find somebody who's rich and really wants it, and they want to pay more because they think if they pay more that it's more valuable. And there's other people that are like, oh, let me do you a favor, kid, I'll buy that for you, right? Somewhere in between, there's got to be communication with other artists and say, hey, what did you sell something like that for? And the other thing is at some point, just sell your work. Just sell it. Or if it's too precious of a painting, then sell a print of the painting, then, for less. If you're not showing and you're not selling in the traditional art model, that means you're not creating value for yourself. So, and there is a satisfaction with selling something and then the next time you sell it for a little more, but you begin to build a client base with those people, hopefully. It's a shit show, crapshoot, at the beginning. For me, that was my experience. I remember this one girl, she did these tiles in art school and she painted little dilly-dallies on them, and she's like, oh yeah, I sold that for $5,000. This is 30 years ago, 28 years ago. And I was just like, are you kidding me? She's like, oh yeah, rich people, they needed to pay more. And I was just like, are you kidding me? That works? I couldn't get my head around it. But for whatever reason, she found what worked for her. I think that was upside down in thinking to assess any value, but she clearly sized up her customer with whatever she had. She took the win. I don't know if she built a lasting career. I remember that girl because I had a terrible crush on her. Well, this is why a lot of people don't buy art, because people put these prices on it that just don't make any sense. I think that there's somewhere in between that is about selling the piece and about building a brand value. And I think artists don't think about building a brand. They think about becoming more successful, but really it is telling the story of who they are, becoming interesting to collectors, or finding a commercial outlet for the work. But it's valuing art. If you ask me to value some pieces in here, I will struggle. One is I don't need to sell it. Two is I don't want to make the piece again and I like it for myself. It's kind of like my own little something, right? I liked cooking a dinner, but I don't want to open a restaurant, that sort of thing. If I had to put a number to something, I would kind of take a business approach to it, calculate what it costs to make, calculate all these other expenses, but then to expect that it would sell for that number, that's something else. It's just a temperature of what's done. How do you put value on something that nobody needs or they don't think they need? That would be a great business to be in, is to be someone who could value someone else's art. They come in and they tell an artist, I have a collector that will buy that, but here's the price you need to be at.
Tell me then, how do you put a value on a replica of world famous paintings you have in your house? The friend you asked to replicate the paintings.
So I gave him a 10 painting job, 8 painting job. I said, take as long as it needs. I don't remember what I paid. I paid exactly what he asked.
How did he evaluate his work?
I think he just thought how long it would take him to paint. I think for him, he was a contractor in that regard. But because I was the client, I know that he wanted to do a really good job. We're friends. I know he went the extra mile for it. And I think he was having fun doing it. He told me he was. He sent me process shots of the paintings coming along because I said, show me how you layer this. I have no idea. Another painter used to say, well, I'll charge $150 a square foot. That's just as arbitrary as anything else, but it was some sort of formula. I think that any time that somebody's selling something, puts it forward to the customer in paper and writing, it somehow carries more weight because it's not this slippery negotiation. It's like, before you got here, this was determined. I'm not trying to put anything over you or whatever. These are my prices. Same thing with customers. Customers would negotiate with me all the time about a price of something, but if they needed that to be shipped FedEx Air overnight for $300, they didn't negotiate with FedEx. They just said, oh yeah, that's worth it to me to get overnight. And I'm like, son of a bitch, why am I not FedEx? I'm actually doing more in the commitment to the project. It was really interesting that people will negotiate with the small, but not the big. Hi, thanks for joining us today. This has been an absolute joy. Have a great weekend.